Teacher wins massive lawsuit over refusing to use student pronouns. Coming from the Alliance Defending Freedom, and this is the law firm that represented him, Virginia School Board to pay $575,000 and change their policies to end the lawsuit on behalf of the wrongly fired teacher. Successful conclusion for former high school instructor Peter Vlaming comes after Virginia Supreme Court reinstated his case. In landmark victory, Virginia Supreme Court vindicates high school teacher fired over pronoun policy. Historic ruling affirms broad right to speak according to conscience and beliefs, so you can't compel speech. And that's absolute tyranny when you're trying to force people to say certain things. It doesn't matter what the reason is. The government does not have a right to compel people's speech in the United States. To settle a lawsuit brought by Alliance Defending Freedom attorneys representing a former Virginia high school teacher who was fired for avoiding the use of pronouns to refer to one of his students, the West Point School Board has agreed to pay $575,000 in damages and attorney's fees. In addition, the school board cleared Peter Vlaming's firing from his record and, separate from the settlement agreement, changed its policies to conform to the new Virginia education policies established by Governor Glenn Youngkin that respect fundamental free speech and parental rights. And when a group like the Washington Post covers a story like this, you'll notice they put parental rights in quotes, as if it's not a real thing, as if there's no distinction between minors and adults. It is something that's very concerning, so watch out for that when you see parental rights in quotes. They're trying to diminish parental rights because they're trying to say that minors should have the same decision-making capacity as adults. That isn't good. The settlement follows last December's landmark Virginia Supreme Court opinion in Vlaming's favor, affirming that the Virginia Constitution contains robust free speech and free exercise protections for public employees. Well, Peter wasn't fired for something he said. He was fired for something he couldn't say. The school board violated his First Amendment rights under the Virginia Constitution and Commonwealth law, according to ADF Senior Counsel Tyson Langhofer, director of the ADF Center for Academic Freedom. As a teacher, Peter was passionate about the subject he taught and was well liked by his students and did his best to accommodate their needs and requests. But he couldn't in good conscience speak messages that he knew were untrue, and no school board or government official can punish someone for that reason. We're pleased to favorably settle this case on behalf of Peter and hope other government and school officials will take note of the high cost involved in failing to respect an American's constitutionally protected freedoms. Quote, I was wrongly fired from my teaching job because my religious beliefs put me on a collision course with school administrators who mandated that teachers ascribe to only one perspective on gender identity, their preferred view, Vlaming said. I love teaching French and gracefully tried to accommodate every student in my class, but I couldn't say something that directly violated my conscience. I'm very grateful for the work of my attorneys at Alliance Defending Freedom to bring my case to victory and hope it helps to protect other teacher and professionals' fundamental First Amendment rights. Each one of these cases are so important for protecting everyone's rights because, of course, it's ridiculous and tyrannical to force people to say things that they don't believe in, or to even force people to say things that they do believe in. Why are you forcing people to speak? That's not an appropriate American government. ADF attorneys filed the lawsuit against the school board in September 2019. Vlaming taught French in the district for nearly 7 years. The West Point School Board fired him after he stated he couldn't in good conscience comply with the superintendent's demand that he refer to one of his students using pronouns inconsistent with the student's biological sex. Vlaming tried to accommodate the student by consistently using the student's new preferred name and by avoiding the use of pronouns altogether. So Vlaming was even willing to use a new name that the student was calling themselves. But school officials ordered him to stop avoiding the use of pronouns and refer to the student even when the student wasn't present, and to start using pronouns inconsistent with the student's biological sex. In December, the Virginia Supreme Court ruled that it would reinstate Vlaming's lawsuit after a lower court dismissed his case. In its opinion, the Commonwealth's High Court wrote that the Virginia Constitution seeks to protect diversity of thought, diversity of speech, diversity of religion, and diversity of opinion. And here's the decision from the Supreme Court. In landmark victory, Virginia Supreme Court vindicates high school teacher fired over pronoun policy. The historic ruling affirms broad right to speak according to conscience and beliefs. In a sweeping victory for free speech and religious freedom, the Virginia Supreme Court ruled that it would reinstate a lawsuit alleging the West Point School Board violated a high school teacher's rights protected by Virginia law when it fired him for avoiding the use of personal pronouns to refer to one of his students. All he did was avoid the use of the pronouns. He was willing to use the student's new name. But that wasn't enough for the school district. Virginia has also since updated its transgender student model policies, which is to say, from the state of Virginia, this is how you deal with transgender students. From the Washington Post, Virginia releases updated transgender student model policies. Virginia's Education Department announced updated model policies for the treatment of transgender students in schools. Offering the first update since an early version released last year was put on hold to review tens of thousands of public comments, many of them opposing the guidelines. The first version, issued in September 2023 by the administration of Governor Glenn Youngkin, required transgender students to use school facilities and programs that match the biological sex they were assigned to at birth and makes it harder for students to change their name or pronoun at school. The final model policies include many of the same guidelines with an emphasis on parents' rights to make decisions with respect to their children. The policies, a version of which each of Virginia's school systems would be required to follow, require schools to use student names matching the sex on their official records. They also outline that teachers and other school personnel may not refer to a student by a different name or pronoun unless parents request the switch in writing. And students would be required to use school facilities matching the sex on their official record. So students couldn't just come in and say, look, my name is this now, my pronouns are this now, and you as the staff, as the teaching administrators, need to keep up with me in terms of how often I change my name. It's up to me randomly, and you need to follow it, or you're violating my rights. So they put a stop to that. Yet they still allow that if parents want their child's name to be changed, or their pronouns changed, they can put it in writing, and then the school would receive that, and then based on that written approval and instruction from the parent, then they would proceed to use the new identifiers. Quote, all children in Virginia deserve to have a parent engaged in their life and to be treated with dignity and respect, Glenn Youngkin said in a statement. The Virginia Department of Education updated model policies to reaffirm my administration's continued commitment to ensure that every parent is involved in conversations regarding their child's education, upbringing, and care. Quote, these policies provide families the opportunity to weigh in on their child's decisions and be a partner in their education, according to Superintendent of Public Instruction Lisa Coons. We encourage all school divisions to review the policies and implement them into their local policies in collaboration with their school boards and community stakeholders. It does seem appropriate for parents to be involved in their minor children's lives. Even when children become adults, it's good for parents to still be involved, but the announcement is the first significant update since the implementation was delayed to give the state education department time to review more than 70,000 public comments on the policies received last fall. The model policies were initially met with sharp criticism and pushback from students, but the policies were praised by supporters who saw them as the governor delivering on his campaign platform of ensuring parental rights in education. Youngkin's policies made Virginia a flashpoint in national discussion, mostly by conservative lawmakers, regarding regulations and restrictions around the treatment of trans youths in schools, because this is disruptive to the entire school. It's also matched a trend of increased legislation and targeting of trans youths. It's not targeting trans youths, it's just saying you need to have some kind of reasonable policy. You have to have a stable environment that students are going into. People can't be changing their names every day. What are you going to do if a student doesn't use a new preferred name and the preferred name is from this morning or this other pronoun and there are going to be conflicts? This is not targeting trans youths. It's not targeting any youths. It's not targeting students. It's creating a workable environment for all the students, which doesn't accommodate literally every student in literally every which way they'd like to be accommodated potentially, but there's no way the school can provide for that. It's about either protecting a learning environment or destroying a learning environment. A Washington Post analysis found that in 2022, more legislation has been filed to restrict the lives of trans people than at any other point in the nation's history. No one is trying to restrict anyone's lives. You just can't expect the entire population to work around new people's ideas of what they want to change. What's going to change next year? What's going to change the year after? There is no way to accommodate every single individual to their wildest dreams and wishes. There has to be a stable environment that everyone gets to participate in. Otherwise, no one can benefit from the environment. Research suggests there are about 4,000 transgender students in Virginia, and a state with 1.2 million public school students. So why are they even talking about this if it's such a small number? LGBT advocates got angry. They fiercely opposed the model policies at the time of their announcement, worrying about the safety and security of LGBT students in schools, who research has shown are far more likely to hurt themselves. Supporters of the policies urge school leaders around the Commonwealth to adopt and implement the new policies. Quote, now we call on school boards to begin replacing the policies they set in place under the old guidelines with the improved guidance that is parent-centered, said Todd Gatji, Vice President of the Government Relations of the Conservative Faith-Based Family Foundation of Virginia, in a statement. Quote, parents in more than 100 counties can once again have their rights respected, as these revised policies, once adopted, will appropriately include parents in the discussion. The guidelines outline 4 main topics: respecting all students, giving parents the right to make decisions with respect to their children, serving the needs of all students, and schools partnering with parents. The guidelines also prohibit school policies from encouraging teachers to conceal information about a student relating to gender from the student's parent, and suggest making single-user bathrooms and facilities available in accessible areas for all students. School systems in more liberal areas of the state, including some in Northern Virginia, signaled after Youngkin's policies were issued that they would oppose the guidelines. There has also been the possibility of legal challenges from opponents arguing that the guidelines violate the Virginia Human Rights Act, which protects individuals in public settings, including schools, from discrimination on the basis of gender identity. Well, this is a major win for this teacher, and it's a major win for Virginia and the rest of the country when a teacher is told, no, you do not have to be forced to speak. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another story. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.